Hey guys, I want to go ahead and talk about some of these operations with radicals. I'll go ahead and do more than one example here. A lot of students have trouble simplifying these, and what you notice is in order to go ahead and add, this is like combining like terms, so I need the same radicals or radicand on the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify this guy, and what you want to do is you want to get perfect squares. And so what's a perfect square? Well, it's 16, because the square root of 16 is going to give me 4. Now the way you want to write it is 16 times 2 is going to give me 32. Now for 18, I can use 6 and 3, but remember 6 is not a perfect square, neither is 3. But I know that 9 is a perfect square. The square root of 9, I know that becomes 3. Same thing over here. Square root of 4 times 2. So this becomes 4 radical 2 plus 3 radical 2 minus the square root of 4 is 2 radical 2. Now after you take the square root, you don't need the radical sign anymore, and you just have a nice whole number. Now you can see that they all have radical 2, radical 2, radical 2. We can go ahead and add these numbers in the front. So 4 plus 3 minus 2 is going to give us 5 radical 2. And that's it. Now over here, when we're dividing these radicals, you notice that we have a radical in the denominator. And what we have to do is we have to rationalize it. We have to get rid of this radical on the denominator. And you notice the radical sign goes all the way over the whole binomial. So what we want to do is we want to get rid of the radical sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply it by itself. Okay, and whatever I do on the denominator, I do on the numerator. Okay, and you notice I didn't change the sign, it's the same thing, because everything on the inside of the radicals has to stay the same. Now what happens when you multiply a radical by itself? Same thing, it's going to cancel each other out. So on the denominator, you're going to have x minus 3, because radical times radical cancels each other out, or actually simplifies, much like over here. Okay, square root of 4, square root of 9. Over here now, x squared minus 9, you can go ahead and factor that. It's a binomial squared, or a difference of two squares, x minus 3. And then we have x plus 3. And then we have on the numerator x square root of x minus 3. And you notice this simplifies nicely. You're left with x plus 3 times the quantity square root of x minus 3. And that's it. Okay, I want to go ahead and do one more example. Okay, and a lot of students have trouble with this one. Let me call this number 3, x minus 4 all over the square root of x minus 2. And you notice this one's a little bit different than the other ones. If you notice, the square root is only over the x, and this is a minus 2 on the outside. So this is a binomial. Okay, except we have a radical. So for this guy, okay, I have to multiply by the conjugate. And what's the conjugate? It's basically the opposite. Instead of a negative 2, we're going to do a plus 2. Because when I FOIL this, when I distribute it, I want to get rid of this square root. And I'm going to have a nice, beautiful binomial. And that's going to be plus 2. So notice the difference. Okay, this one is square root of x minus 2, square root of x plus 2. Over here, I didn't need to do that because the whole thing is under the radical. Okay, now when I distribute this, when I multiply this out, square root of x times square root of x is going to give me x. Okay, this times this is x. And then square root of x times 2 is going to give me 2 radical x. But then over here I have negative 2 times radical x, and that's going to cancel out. And then negative 2 times positive 2, that's going to give me a negative 4. Okay. And then on the numerator, I'm just going to go ahead and put it together. And you're going to notice that we're going to be able to simplify. Okay. X minus 4 simplifies. My final answer is the square root of x plus 2. Okay, and there it is. But you know what? Let me go ahead and go ahead and do the math. I want to go ahead and distribute this just for those of you that might not understand it. So x minus 2, and then we have square root of x plus 2, and we're going to do the FOIL method. So this guy times this guy. Remember, we want to multiply the inside, so we're going to have x squared. Square root of x times 2, that's going to give me a positive 2 radical x. Go underneath, that's going to give me a minus 2 radical x. And then negative 2 times 2 is going to give me a negative 4. Okay, so positive 2 and minus 2, this middle is going to simplify. You're going to make that into a 0. That's going to disappear. Now, what's the square root of x squared? Is going to be left with x. Technically, it's absolute value, but that's discussion for some other time. And then minus 4. So that's how I got this guy in the bottom. Okay, so hopefully that helps, guys. And remember, you want to multiply by the conjugate when it's a binomial, and when we have the whole radical, you just want to multiply by itself.